I decided to make this video for anyone considering riding bicycles or e-bikes on Acadia National Park's carriage roads. We started off early in the morning, probably around 7 o'clock. Here we are in front of Woodland Park Cottages, and here's the carriage path that we decided to take. It's called Around the Mountain Carriage Road, and it runs for approximately 12 miles. We decided to go in a clockwise direction around the path, and we decided to enter at the Brown Mountain parking lot. And when we got there, it was mostly empty, about 1/4 full, I would say. When we returned, it was definitely full. And one thing that I'm always concerned about is that there is a outhouse or something there, and there is one there at the entrance, or rather at the parking lot. The orange sign with a blue border indicates that Class 1 bicycles are allowed. I actually disconnected the throttle on our Velotric bicycles to make them Class 1 compliant, but nobody questioned or inspected our bicycles on either day that we were there. Signage is excellent. However, I would still bring a carriage road map because it can be confusing with all the different carriage roads that you have a choice of going on. We were picking the one today that said Around the Mountain. In my 20s, I probably would have had no issue doing this on a normal analog bike, but I wanted to try it on my e-bike as I'm in my 60s, and I was concerned that I would not be able to go up and down the hills very easily, or rather up the hills at least. I wanted to give people an idea of the surface that is the carriage paths. This is a 1.7-inch bicycle tire, a Velotric Tempo, on the crushed granite and clay surface. In the middle, it is very well packed, but on the sides of the carriage road, it can be a little bit loose, and you just have to be careful. Okay, so let's start with some ride footage finally, and you'll notice that we are about 1/3 to 1/2 of the way up the trail, and that's only because All Trails had us starting at Jordan Pond instead of at the Brown Mountain parking lot. But you'll notice that we're going up a very steep part of the hill, and we're going easily about 8 miles to 9 miles an hour up the hill. We're not in any hurry, but it's a lot easier being on an e-bike going up this type of hill on loose surfaces. I had not been on this trail, I don't think, before, even though I grew up in this area from about 7 years old up until college. Just returning now to go to Acadia National Park, where we have come probably at least 30 or more times. But this trail was probably my favorite trail, carriage path that I've ever been on, and it had a lot of views. You'll notice we slow down a lot and pull off to the side because there is so much to see, and it was just a beautiful day. On this carriage road, you could see lakes and mountains in the distance, and you could see some ocean, which is Somes Sound. You'll notice that our app is showing that we're going around 14 miles an hour, but you'll notice with my wife's bike up ahead, which is a Velotric Breeze, it has brake lights, and you'll see them coming on quite often. Right there, they're on now. And that's just showing that we're not going fast uphill, we're just gliding downhill and using the brakes, and we had to use the brakes a lot because this is a very steep downhill, and it was a little bit loose on the sides, so we didn't want to go very fast. I don't think you would want to go over 15, 16 miles an hour, especially while going around these corners. Her bike had 2.2-inch tires and mine had 1.7, so I think hers probably was able to handle the loose granite better than mine was, but mine did fine. It's just, you just had to be careful and not go too fast, that's all. But again, it was an absolutely beautiful ride, and I hope this is showing you how nice the carriage paths are. One thing it is not showing you is that how smooth it actually is, and that even though it is a gravel or crushed stone kind of thing, it is very even, and there's not any bumps for the most part. It's not like even a rail trail that occasionally has roots going across the road and making large bumps. You'll see I'm probably breaking a few rules by trying to make sure we're on the right path with my map while I'm riding. Coming early to Acadia National Park definitely has its advantages. I would say we came across about 5 people total, and one of them was this runner who we passed, I would say 3 times, because we kept pulling over to take pictures and then having to repass him over and over again. You'll notice up ahead there will be granite retaining walls, which I think have been there forever, just because this road has been exceptionally well built when it was originally built by the Rockefellers. And I thought it was better, instead of just watching us ride, to just show some of the scenery that we saw while we were going on this mountain path. Here are our 2 bikes. The orange one is my Velotric Tempo, and it has on the back the emergency items like inner tubes and things like that, and my wife's Velotric Breeze is the blue one, and it has snacks in it since we didn't eat breakfast before we set out for the ride. This is a picture of Somme Sound, and then the Atlantic Ocean, which it opens up into, would be on the left-hand side. And again, this was a beautiful day, so we had some great pictures. This is Jordan Pond. And when you talk about Acadia National Park, you have to talk about the carriage path bridges. Each one is unique in its shape and the way it's designed, and I encourage everyone to really take their time to look at how each one is built and constructed and some of its unique features. In my younger years visiting Acadia National Park, I don't believe I ever took the time to really look at how these bridges were constructed, but it's really worth looking at them and appreciating them. Again, it really was a perfect day to be out and about, and even though it rains sometimes, or a lot of the times in Acadia National Park, you do get to see waterfalls that are on the side of the road, small waterfalls, and they were neat to take a picture of. On our second day, we did the Eagle Lake carriage path, and we left later in the morning, so it had a lot more people in the parking lot, still not filled up. It did have a double outhouse, which was nice, and here is a picture of the warning saying you need to have a Class 1 bicycle. And we thought we'd give you some more footage of just the carriage path for Eagle Lake, although the Eagle Lake carriage path is very similar to the carriage path that was around the mountain. We saw more people on this carriage path than we did on the Around the Mountain, but that could be because it's closer to the visitor center, or because we left later in the day by about a half an hour, so we probably got to the entry point at 7:30 instead of 7 o'clock. I think this carriage path is a wonderful one. It's about 5 to 6 miles, but it has mostly just lake views, whereas the Around the Mountain had more views of various lakes and also Somme Sound, so it had more diversity in terms of views, but this is still an excellent carriage path. One thing that we really loved about these paths is just how peaceful and tranquil they were. You just hear the sound of your tires on the road and really nothing else. And when you pull over, you hear the lapping of the water on the rocks on the side of the lake, and that's all. And it's just a wonderful place to go riding. And even though I love rail trails, I don't think they really compare, because carriage paths were made for a visual, entertaining way, whereas rail trails were made to get from point A to point B, from city to city. So these were really designed for people to enjoy the environment. And just like for the Around the Mountain, I think it would be better if I just showed you some of the scenes that we saw while we were riding around the lake on the carriage path. And I believe that the Eagle Lake is a watershed, so there weren't any motorboats or anything on there, and the water was nice and clear, and it was just a beautiful day again to see everything. I think we sat in this spot for about 10 minutes just enjoying everything around us, the nature, the sounds, and the views. One thing I would recommend everyone do when they're in Acadia National Park is go to Otter Cliffs. Now I'm leaving this map up for a while because I wanted to describe where I usually went instead of to the actual Otter Cliffs. If you'll look up the road, basically in the middle of the map, the cliffs are less, I guess there's less parking probably in that area, but also it has some wonderful views there that I thought were easier to access than the actual Otter Cliffs. So I always thought Otter Cliffs was just after Sand Beach, which is in that notch up in the top right. That's where we always used to pull over to the side of the road and park somewhere and try and find a area that was not being used by other people. If you do go to the Otter Cliffs parking lot, you can cross the road over to the cliffside and you'll see this trail, which is actually barricaded from the road by these granite stones. Makes it easier for you to walk protected, and I thought that was very interesting that they designed that into the park. One of the benefits of Acadia National Park is that dogs are allowed everywhere, and here is our dog enjoying the day on Otter Cliffs, or at least bearing with us while we take a picture of him. And I'd like to just close out this video and thank you for watching it and bearing with me while I try to make this video. Again, I'm just a beginner, but here are some pictures that we took from the Otter Cliffs. Again, beautiful day, and the waves, when they are really crashing, are almost like Thunderhole in terms of the sounds they make, but here it was a pretty passive day and there wasn't a lot going on, but the scenery is just magnificent at Acadia National Park, I'd say. Again, thank you for watching this video, and I hope you enjoyed it, and please give me any suggestions on how to make the videos better, and goodbye.